Welcome back to another episode of Just Real Quick. We got something special for you guys. I got my co-host, as normal, Mr. Jeffrey Fieldstead. But three of our top contributors here at JKR Windows have come to join us in the studio today. Mr. J.J. Gurney, Cory Gilbert, and longest-standing salesperson in JKR Windows history, Mr. Obediah Longoria. Coming up on 5 years now.
Yeah.
So excited to share with you guys. Excited to jam with my OSLs on all the exciting stuff happening in JKR Windows and share some personal stories that helped you guys get to where you are today. Because as polished and as successful as you are today, I know that it's always a journey to get there. And that's part of what's exciting about doing podcasts. For me early on, listening to podcasts and seeing and hearing examples from other people where they came from and now where they're at helped build a little belief and understanding that the only difference between where you guys are at and where I was when I was still working an hourly job, just a little time, commitment, belief in myself. So, JJ, why don't you start us off, brother? Youngest man of the group. So I use you as an example a lot. And even yesterday on the company call, I asked what book you're reading because I'm trying to plant these seeds with everybody. And I'm looking at everybody on the call, and they're playing around on their phones, and they're not paying attention. And I'm the effing CEO, and I'm like the only one taking notes. So I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, what the hell are all these people doing? And I'm just, like, without shoving it down their throat, I'm trying to say, like, follow the effing clues of success, guys. Take notes. Pay attention. Like, make some goals for yourself. Put an action plan together. JJ didn't become like this. Just one day he just decided to be good at sales, and all of a sudden he was good.
Yeah.
So let's start there. Like, this didn't happen overnight for me. I'm where I'm at a relatively young age because of these contributing factors.
I think some of the stuff we talked about on the call yesterday, which was basically banking on someone else's belief. When I look back, that was really like the biggest contributing factor because I didn't have enough self-belief in myself. So I banked on other people, right? When other people would say, hey, dude, I totally believe in you. Like, I know you can do it. I would literally go out to the next door and be like, yeah, maybe I can. But I didn't know I could. Inside, I was like, I don't think I can, but these guys can, and they say I can. So maybe I can, right? I think that's probably the biggest thing because I remember being like on the curb, like, hey, man, been out here all day. These people hate me. I now think I hate myself. I'm like, I just as soon walk home if I had a car, but they dropped me off in the neighborhood and I wasn't allowed to basically leave until someone came to pick me up. I'm like, well, I mean, I guess I'll make the best out of it. Call my mom. She's like, hey, like, you can totally do it. I'm like, yeah, I can't. But then I would call the guys that I worked with, and I don't know, they saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And so I think that was probably the biggest thing was everyone around me was saying, like, I had the thing. And I'm like, I don't know what the thing is. And then I slowly developed that with time.
But didn't it help also to see these guys that were doing it and you're like, this guy's kind of goofy. I mean,
Dude,
if he can do this, I don't know why I couldn't do it.
So in my first office, there was this guy. And he was very unusual. He had like this little strip of goatee. Like, he was not like a good-looking guy, right? Definitely like overweight. Not saying any of that stuff's bad, but it's not like our office was full of like pretty fit guys that like cared about health. This guy did not fit.
We just have this tendency to stack ourselves up against people.
100%.
Right? And you're right. There's nothing wrong because I know some guys with goatees and that are overweight. They're
100%.
Also seeing success.
For sure.
But it helps me to be like,
I'm right here. Hey, what do you know?
That's not a goatee, is
I'm
it?
working on it, though. Okay.
but that's one of the strong suits of leadership is that we're not trying to put ourselves on a pedestal and make this thing look like it's unaccomplishable by a standard human being. Yeah. We're trying to really position this in a way that is you can accomplish this too. I'm nothing special. 100%. I came from a very similar place as you come from. My dad's a contractor. My mom worked at a bank. He was a firefighter. I grew up blue collar, like entrepreneurial type of mindset and sales. Actually, I've been like for most of my life, everybody talked about sales like it was the devil. And they're greasy and they're not trustworthy, and I didn't think I would ever get involved in sales. Then you start seeing examples of people that make it look like, okay, I could probably do it as good or better, but I could probably bring some integrity and some honesty to it so I could feel good about it. Right?
100%. Yeah, I think for me, it was like I looked at everyone in our office and I was inspired because all of them drove really nice cars. They all wore brand new shoes. And to me, I was like, I don't know what this is. They all had like decked out Lululemon clothes. And to me, that was just impressive. I was like, why are all these guys, in my mind, like at that point in time, like all these guys are rich, right? And I'm just like, what is this? But there was one guy and he was the number one sales guy. None of that. He drove like a 2009 Prius, like freaking, the guy did not care about anything, right? But he was having the most fun at the job. Like, oh my gosh, got in, I got tacos in this lady's house, like sent a video. We're like, did you sell her? He's like, oh no, I got to sell after. He like a different house, you know? And he would always talk about stacking little wins. And so that's where we talk about, at least in like my office, is momentum. So you stack little wins. Like when I have a rep call me and they're like, hey, like I can't do this. I'm like, no, you can, but you can't sell Windows. That's what you're trying to do, right? You need to look for an opportunity to serve. And that's where I would say, like, I've always separated myself in my career when I've had my most down days is I've looked at people that I could help. And like I usually knock into some lady that's like, oh, I have these cases of water I need lifted in my house. Like, I'm all in. I'm like, this is the biggest win of today because you didn't tell me no. And that yes helped me then find someone to tell me yes that day. You know, because it's a lonely world out there, like knocking on your own. We're alone for 95% of the time, you know? So just getting that human connection and building those little wins is what's always helped me.
Yeah. Love that. That's cool. Well, mindset is about 95% of life in general, whether you become successful or you don't, but in sales maybe more than anything. Because look at just the contrast in the way that you developed a way of thinking about sales that a lot of people never get there. We're talking like years into this, and they're still struggling with how to get started again the next day and how to overcome what they just ran into on the last appointment, not carry it with them to the next one.
Well, I think that's because of self-improvement. I know you're constantly reading, right, and a desire to get better. Where most people, they don't have they have a desire to make money or be successful, but they forget the desire is nothing without the willpower, right? You got to have the will, the desire to put in the work, to do the things when nobody's watching. Leave an appointment, go call your coach. How do I overcome this? Or on the doors, beat myself up mentally. How do I improve my mindset? Reading something different, listening to a podcast like this. Those are the things that most people don't do. But it's, you said success leaves clues. It's the things that when you look at people that are winning, they all do the same things. It's pretty. It's pretty obvious. You know. And so I think most people don't, but that's pretty obvious too. You know, you can study losers and learn a lot of what not to do. Just like if you study winners, you can learn a lot of, hey, maybe if I do this, I can have success. Problem is, most people want to do the things winners do for like a week or two, or maybe even a month or two, and get the success that they're comparing themselves against. These dudes drive a nice car. It's not going to happen in a month or two.
Also, another big responsibility of leaders is to put things into a proper perspective and make it attractive. Because, I've also heard the opposite end of that spectrum where they're putting things into perspective, but they're doing it in a way that makes it sound like they're going to move a mountain out of their way to go and reach success. So there's a cool dynamic that as a great leader, you're going to be able to cast a vision and paint a picture and make this attractive, and it's going to be worth it. And there's a reason why you're having this conversation right now, and it's your decision what you do with it. Are you going to run with it? Are you going to take advantage of the opportunity? Or are you going to have something to show for all this effort you're putting in, 5-10 years from now? Because you're going to have to work your ass off to have a good quality of life. Either way, are you going to focus on doing something that's going to produce a better result? Or are you going to be like most people and just go work your eyeballs out?
Well, I think a leader does a good job of increasing hope and belief and decreasing doubt and fear. And if you can do that, you can get almost...
Exactly what I just said.
Yeah, I know. It is.
Get a little
That's what I'm saying, yeah. It's simple. It's just, if you can do that, then anybody can win, really. It's not like anybody can win in sales. Not everybody will, but anybody can.
Yep. And just like the guy that he was talking about that was the top performer in the office, he didn't look like anything special. He wasn't even driving a good car. He didn't wear nice clothes.
He didn't have big muscles like all the other guys.
But
True.
he was still having success.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
if we can, like, we're going to have a lot of opportunities. Always seen a lot of people come through the doors. And we've seen people have a pretty high level of success and break records that just at first glance, like, they didn't look like a top performer. We just provided a place for them to be a part of, and a culture and an expectation and a winning environment where they're like, you know what? Maybe it takes a little bit of time to get rolling, and then they find their groove.
You know, it's interesting because you just don't know who actually, because you can bring in all sorts of people into the organization. You're just like, this guy's going to kill it. This guy, this guy probably not. You know, it's hard not to judge people, and you gotta as a leader define where your all stars are, where you put your time in, because you can drain a lot of your time dragging people around and trying to get them to do what you want them to do, right? Mm-hmm. And that's, you know, the difference between leadership and management, right? But essentially, I want to point out, like, we've got a guy, Levi Webb. My goodness, like he's the number one producer for this month, and he's a pretty
fired up
fresh
about it too, man.
director. And
He's like, you see who's at the top of the list? I saw him in passing. He wanted to make sure I knew.
Yeah.
But just so cool to watch that, because I've seen all sorts of people come into organizations and here at JKR, and to see him so lit up, but he deserves and he's so humble and he's so grateful for his opportunity. Like, he's JKR for life. Like, this changed his life. He was a trucker before this, right? And so he's got a different perspective than most of us, you know. Sometimes this industry and the direct sales can poison people and create egos and all sorts of stuff. But when you get a guy like that it changed his life, and his wife is just like, I love this. And he's making $30,000 a month. Like, he's in.
And he's been here for how long?
And he's been here. When did Levi start?
Maybe 4 months.
Yeah, 4
4 or 5 months.
4 or 5 months.
$30,000 a month.
But the thing is,
So awesome.
the thing about him is he's starting to step into a leadership role. He takes action. So when I'm doing a meeting, he'll get up, he'll stand up, and he'll go right in front of the group, and he'll say his thing for just a couple minutes, and he'll sit back down. I'm like, there you go, Levi. That's awesome. And then he's just growing into this thing, and
That's so cool.
And it's so cool to watch, right? So you see this guy is self-developed. But the other thing about something that I see with success, and it's Levi, just 100% this kid, is he works his butt off. He didn't have the skill set like that a lot of some guys have, the natural talent, and he just worked his butt off to do what he's doing. And I just look at all these guys, and you look at their production and everything, and you're just like, it's so simple. It's just go to work. Go to work. That's it.
Yep.
That, you know what I mean? Show up.
Yeah, I said something yesterday on the call also that reminds me of what I see in Levi is he's just in a place in his life where he's hungry, he's humble, he's becoming really good with people, but he's actively seeking it.
Yeah.
And when you see him on the calls, like, he is intensely paying attention to every word that's coming out of your guys' mouths.
Yep.
Everything. And I'm not, sometimes I can't see what he's doing below the camera, but I'm almost certain that he's also taking notes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you look around at everybody else, and so you can tell, like, just by being on a Zoom with people, who's taking this thing seriously. Every time I see him, he's intensely, like, doing whatever he's doing. He's just intentional, and he's intense, and he's trying to make something happen fast, and look at what has happened for him in a short period of time.
And I think gratitude, right? You can see it in him. It's just constant gratitude all along the way. Because if you don't have that, you can become lazy and complacent, and you start stepping back. And if you're grateful all along the journey, you ride the wave and you're happy.
Yep.
You know?
I think that's probably one of, like, the biggest things. Because one of my best coordinators, Kim, she will, like, text me, be like, hey, like, here's the situation. I need you guys to run this appointment. And, like, yesterday we had a situation where she scheduled an appointment and nobody could cover it. A lot of reps are, like, aggressive and upset. Like, oh, like, I'm out here working. You can't even cover me. Like, what the heck, right? But instead, she just said thank you. And I just thought that was interesting that she followed up with a text. Thank you so much for being so accommodating to my situation. I will be forever grateful for this opportunity. And I thought that's interesting because most people would be frustrated. She instead was grateful, and she said another deal that we could cover, and it still closed.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? I think there's a huge aspect of gratitude. That's always been like my centerpiece whenever I'm like spiraling out of control. I call it spiraling out of control. Like, I wake up, like,
Getting in
I
your
don't
head.
even know if I can sell today. So then instead of trying to sell, I go and serve someone first,
Yeah.
and the sale usually sells itself. Because I'm like, no, my cup's already full. Like, when I get into that appointment, like, I woke up a little funky, did some service work, get in my appointment, and they're like, oh, like, do you need to sell? I'm like, no, absolutely not. My cup's already full. And then they close themselves. I've had a lot of deals where I didn't even push them at all.
Yeah.
The natural pullback.
Yeah.
Well,
It's amazing.
she's another example of someone who came here in a short amount of time, has had a lot of success, made a ton of money, but it's crazy how much money she's made in a short amount of time. And prior to coming here, she like taught how to make sourdough bread or something. I think that was her previous experience, right? So how do you make sourdough bread? To selling windows.
To make it 30 grand a month.
Yeah, she's making at least 30 grand a month, right?
For sure.
So it's cool to see. That's another, example of someone new, didn't come in with a lot of experience, humble, grateful, willing to learn, and
But you know the ironic part? She's the fourth layer.
4D.
Four
Yeah,
deep?
she's the fourth person deep.
see, there you go.
Yeah.
That's not ironic. That's just
We're talking some,
we talk about it all
talking
the
some
time. right?
recruiting lingo now.
Yeah, I love
4 people deep. So you recruited somebody who recruited somebody who recruited somebody, and then found
Her.
Kim, which is last month our top producer. And she only worked 2 weeks of the month. She was the top producer in the whole company.
You know the crazy part? None of those other people even work for us anymore.
That's the power of recruiter. That's the power of recruiting. But also, not only is she number one, but she also is not working the most hours. She's got quite a few children. She had 5 or 6 kids.
8.
8 kids. She had 8 kids.
She has 8 kids?
8.
Wow.
Yeah, I knew she had a lot of kids. So, yeah, I mean,
So she always says that. Like, oh, I can only work until 3:30. Because kids come home.
yeah,
Which just
Like-
proves,
Yeah.
so many excuses, right?
Yep.
And that's the thing is like when as leaders, you find that you get good at eliminating distractions, right? And focusing on what's blocking your day and focusing on and executing a plan, right? And you talk to so many of these people that have just a plan that's just all over the place, and they allow things in their lives to just get distracted through their production hours, that they actually should be focused. And if they just schedule their time appropriately and get those things, those housekeeping things done, so they can really focus on their production hours and their strategic hours, it just snowballs for them. And it's like, man, life is easy, but they overcomplicate it because they have 10 things that they got to do that day. And guess what? They got 9 out of 10 done, but the 9 out of 10 done didn't actually produce what they want in life.
Right.
It's that one thing that they're avoiding.
One of the things we got to do as leaders is to help people. Levi and Kim don't need a whole lot of direction when it comes to that. It's obvious. They're structured. They're intentional. They're using their time wisely. They still have the same amount of shit to do as everybody else does. Like, she got 8 kids.
She got more.
yeah,
she's got more. For sure.
which I think is actually why she's getting more done. Right, a lot of times people are looking for someone that has a lot of time. Like they're as leaders, we have to invest our time with the right people. And you go, who is the right person? Usually, it's the busy people because they've got to get it done, get results, and still be able to get everything else done in their life. And they're looking for a way to make it all work. Not where the other person who they got all this time in their day. There's a reason why they ain't got nothing going on because they've never had anything else going on. And then we're trying to change them.
But what is that person, though, right? They're lazy.
Exactly.
They just are. So until they decide to change that, they're going to be that.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And
But there's
all
something-
lazy is to me is just uninspired.
1,000%.
Right?
They don't
So
have a goal.
I know people who've been lazy, and then all of a sudden, I considered myself lazy. I didn't have a whole lot going on. There was nothing all that exciting to be a part of or to spend my time doing. But once I found that, I turned it on. I've been going for 8 years straight. Never turned it off for 8 years. So that's one of the things that I had mentioned earlier about leadership is we can help people. I know you do a really good job at this, Cory, is let's find your why.
Yeah.
Because you see all this energy I got, it didn't just get created out of thin air. I have a why. This is important to me. I am fired up.
Yeah.
You couldn't have this type of energy if you didn't have that also. So let's help you find it, because it's going to be the difference in you reaching a high level of success and continue to spin your wheels and being a lazy person because you're uninspired.
And I think that why is, it's all about perspective. People all have different levels of perspective when they're coming into an opportunity, right? In that perspective, because that's where the gratitude comes in, and that's where all the stuff. Because you got to go through the crap sometimes to create the perspective, and then you really value that opportunity that comes along. And so I'll be honest with you guys, like this opportunity at JKR for me has been incredible. Because I've experienced something in the past that I had to recover from, and this is a new light for me. And I tell you, like when I went in and Brandon finally convinced me to come into this office, and I was waiting at a certain expectation coming in, and it was totally different. And I sat down and I got to talk to these 22 younger guys again and talk about self-development again. I was like, ooh, I like
Feels
that.
good.
I like that. I was like sitting in my house trying to do day trading and just my wife's like, get out of the house. Like, and I wasn't making any money,
Good for her.
Cory came in so guarded, though. I remember his first day. He's just like absolutely mute. I'm like, what's up, dude? He's like, nothing. He didn't have anything to say.
Trying to figure you guys out.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, where am I going to take advantage of here? That was your motive in the beginning, huh? I remember that. I'm like, no, dude, you got the wrong guys. Come out here to Bullhead.
Yeah.
Come on this trip.
Yeah, and I think when you get 40, when you get to that age, right? You're like, and you spent your blood, sweat, and tears on something in the past, and then it crumbles. It goes down. Now you're phase 2 of your life. You look at now I have this check box of weeks, weeks of my life kind of thing. You fill that sucker out, and you're just like, dang, that's filled out, because you feel young, but you're actually getting old. And so this is like phase 2. So I'm talking about perspective and gratitude. And once you find an opportunity like this, like JKR, the product's there, the wave is there. Like we're in just a really good opportunity here. And then the people, the leadership here. I was with a customer, and he's just like, you know what? I haven't done any research, but I'm doing this because of you, right? And I'm like, okay, that's cool. He's like, so you believe in what you're doing, right? And I'm like, let me sit down and let me tell you why I believe that what this is. And he's just like, okay. At the end of my 5-minute speech with him, it was like, I'm in. Let's do it. You know what I mean? Because I believe in every step of the process of what JKR is.
That happens to me all the time.
Yep.
Like people will be like, am I actually going to get taken care of? I'll be like, I'm actually glad you asked that.
Yeah.
Because I've actually worked for companies before, and customers did not get taken care of. And one thing I can 1,000% tell you is that install day probably won't go perfect because it's construction.
Yep.
Something might happen because it will, right? I said we all hope it's not going to, but it's my job to set your expectations properly and like, hey, we might miss major window. But you know what I do know for a fact is every single house, something like that's happened, we then reordered all the stuff. Yep. No big deal. Might take a couple weeks, but you will 100% be stoked by the end of this.
Yep.
And they're always like, all right.
And JJ, I think
Opie's been around the longest to see that it's not something we just talk about. We do it, and we do it in a lot of remote areas, too. No matter where it is, we're going to make sure that they get taken care of. It sure was a lot easier when it was just like a 30-minute drive from headquarters. But it's a commitment that we've made. It has a lot to do with the way that people perceive JKR Windows from the outside looking in and internally. And one of the reasons why your testimony of JKR Windows is so strong, because 5 years worth of this.
Yeah.
This is not something they just talk about.
No, I had the same thing when I talk to people in the house. They ask me about it. I've been doing this for 5 years, guys, and I've been in construction my entire life. It's not easy. Things always go wrong. It's like being a mechanic. You get into there, you think you're going to replace a starter, and you find out you got to replace the fan belt and this and that. It's just not as fun. And that's the same thing. I always ask people, like, have you ever done any of your own remodels? You ever torn up your floor to see if you could replace it? And they're like, no, or they have, and they're like, oh my God, yeah. It turns out it was. I was like, right? I was like, so that's what we run into. But we take care of that, so you guys don't have to worry about it. And I've been doing this for a long time. And I don't have a single customer that's actually upset at anything we've done. I was like, we fixed everything that goes wrong. We take care of it. And yeah, I can call people over and over again and be like, hey, yeah, we did this, we did that. You know, we had this problem, but we fixed it.
You know, that just made me think of something. So one thing that we're not tracking that I think that we should track is the highest personal producer in company history for somebody who's active at JKR Windows.
Mm-hmm.
I'll bet he's at the top of the list.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt.
I'm catching it.
I mean, that's like
Yeah.
that fair.
4 months.
I mean, it's like,
this unfair. How long have you been here?
Since July.
He's like, Obi, would you stay out the field for a while? Like, stop going on appointments for.
Oh,
To be
people
fair,
will catch
I've been
up.
over $2 million every year as a salesman. Over $2 million, and that was when the windows were averaging $10,000 to $14,000 a piece.
Yeah.
And over $2 million every single
Those
time.
were bummer days. I think of the lower contract values. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Our adjustment.
Well, we keep saying it's better today than it's ever been.
Yep.
Yeah.
Both because of all the problems that we've worked through and made enhancements on, and where the market's at. There's more visibility and more awareness and more credibility in replacement windows than there's ever been in the history. of
Yeah, and
home
if we're
services.
talking opportunity, because perspective of being in direct sales for 20 years is this vehicle, right? We can all get on different types of planes. They all fly in the air. They all get to certain destinations. But the neat thing about this window opportunity, it's got a window opportunity. That was dumb.
That's good. That's good.
Just came up. That joke, right?
There you go.
40-year-old right there.
You just said you were 40, dude. So,
40, man.
you know? Yeah. I'm almost there.
There's
But
more.
this opportunity from a sales rep perspective and a leadership and growth and what we're going to do is obviously we're revamping things that the direct sales market has not done, and JKR is going to announce that shortly. But just the fact, I just had a guy that was a renewal by Anderson. He was the landscaping. He actually worked for my company for years as one of my VPs, and he's just like, you know what, dude, I just don't get paid. And I don't get paid for a very long time. And so the fact that we get our people get paid right fast, within a 10-day period is incredible. And also we're dealing with medium-sized contracts. Mm-hmm. And so it's not like we have to sell thousands of little contracts there to make some money. It's like, no, we're just right in that sweet spot. And we're in a product that's recycling over and over again. Builder grade windows, they're always going to put them in, and in 15 to 20 years, they're going to need to be replaced.
Yep.
And there's no tax credits and all this crap. I mean, they're there, but we don't really utilize them.
But they're small and they don't impact what we do or how we do it.
Yeah.
So it's just
It's
it's
just
job
true
security.
value.
It's job security.
And it's something I'm actually working on a partnership with our manufacturer right now. And there's a lot of money in new construction. And that's where a large portion of their focus goes each year. And especially when the market has been as good as it has, they've focused on where the low-hanging fruit is. Mm-hmm. And I'm talking about, like, here's a couple of studies and here's a couple of conversations I've had with them. Like, I'm trying to get them to focus more of their attention on building out the resources for us because of the exact same things that you said. Like, this is not going away, you guys. Doesn't matter what the economy does. It's not going away. Yeah. But I guarantee you, when shit starts to get tough, new construction is almost going to come to a standstill.
Yep.
And you're trying to fluff all this up for another, private equity deal. Mm-hmm. But what if you just did it sustainably using replacement windows all across the United States and build us an infrastructure so we can grow throughout the United States, preferably just for JKR Windows and not for anybody else.
Yeah.
Is what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
But just because it's reality. Home services in general, but replacement windows, just because of the testimonials that I've gotten from all these guys who've been doing it for 40 years. They've never shut off.
Yeah.
Things have never gotten hard for them for 40 years.
Well, the reality, if the market's good, people are going to remodel their homes. If the market's bad, people stay in their homes and remodel their homes. So it's just what happens. It's, it runs in cycles, so you have a different customer determining on the cycle, but it doesn't ever really impact your business.
But the thing is I love our customer, right? Because that's our customer. Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yes.
Our customers are people with money.
Yeah.
In most industries, really are designed around them not having money.
Yeah.
Right? Because, like, solar, for example, is really pitched heavily on, like, savings. So the customer that does solar isn't the wealthy customer, because the wealthy customer would pay cash for the system,
Yep.
and they're that shopper customer. That's not who you sell.
Right.
But with Windows, it's actually that right in between.
Yep.
Because we can sell wealthy customers, and we have a spot for, a little less well off, and it still works for both.
Yep.
So I just think we have such a cool customer base,
Yeah.
and I've had a lot of really cool experiences with the people I've met in homes versus my previous industries where it's not like that.
Yeah.
Like, you don't go in the house, the old houses I'm used to, and like want to take your shoes off.
Yeah.
In a lot of these homes, it doesn't bother me a bit because they take care of their stuff.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
That's why they're wanting to
For
remodel,
the most part.
take care of their home.
Yep.
Yeah.
Not all.
For the most part.
Not all. There have been, so we know
Some
there-
you don't even wanna
there's
sit down and be
exceptions
like,
to
"I'm good."
everything. Let's
100%.
face it. There.
We've had a couple of cat ladies,
Yeah.
a couple of hoarders.
The hoarders are the
Yeah.
worst.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I've been in homes,
We've all been in
no
homes.
good.
You go back to your rep, you're like, don't ever do that again.
Yeah.
Like, hey man, if they're driving a 4-wheeler, red flag. The other day. ATV, I'm like, I shouldn't have a car. Not because it was a choice. It's because it wasn't a choice. It shows you'd be on that 4-wheeler in the snow.
I literally almost got Cousin Eddie. You know who Cousin Eddie is, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, he was the Cousin Eddie, dude. Just almost got him. Almost got him. So you see that tree right there? I got to cut that tree down. And it was awesome.
Was he drinking beer the whole time too?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Short shorts. He put it on his leg up on his fold-out table and his camper next to it.
So
Oh, it was
That's
awesome.
funny.
Those are fun customers. They make it exciting.
Yeah.
And memorable. Because otherwise, if it's just cookie cutter, it's not all that memorable. We just had some fun stuff happen out in Reno for a couple of really young salesmen that they're never going to forget. I remember when I got a shotgun pulled on me. I've knocked thousands of doors. I don't remember any of those other ones. I remember when I got a bat swung at me. I remember when I got a shotgun pulled on. I remember when I got the SWAT team called on me. There's just a handful of things that we remember that make this interesting.
Jeff, what were you doing?
Yeah, for real.
I just knocked lots of doors. You put yourself in a lot of different scenarios. A house just happened to get broken into right after I knocked on it, and I'm walking around the neighborhood in a bright red shirt with Jesus sandals on. And when they found me and caught up to me, they're like, "That's the guy. He's wearing a bright red shirt and Jesus sandals." You think he just changed out of all of his black clothes and put the Jesus sandals back on? I was like, guys, trust me, it wasn't me. But they had AR-15s, and they put me in the back of the car, and they thought that I was the one that broke the sliding glass door 10 minutes after I had just knocked on the door and found out that the young girl was home alone.
Oh, bad timing.
Just bad timing. My mom was even there. She's like, "It's not him, I promise." Makes it interesting, though, the cat ladies and the hoarders and getting the cops called on you.
It's also nice to be able to help those. I've helped so many old ladies that like cry because they wouldn't have been able to do it without the deal that we're offering and the financing that we have, and just making them feel comfortable. And they're just like giving me a hug and trying to give me. I've got like placemats at my house. I got oven warmers, like all kinds of crazy things these old ladies will just give to me because they're just so ecstatic. Like, I can't thank you so much for actually helping me out. Like I've had so many people come in here and they try to force me into a double the price window or some kind of crazy stuff, and they're like, "But you just came in and just gave me the actual price," and I wouldn't have been able to do it without that financing. Thank you for working with me.
Yeah.
And like that's one of the greatest feelings. You're like, oh, like it's awesome to sell to rich people. They're like, yeah, here's a $40,000 check, But when you can help those people that couldn't have done it otherwise, you're just like, oh, this is, and then they call you after the install and they're like, "It was perfect, Obi. It's exactly everything you said." Blah blah blah.
Love that.
That's freaking.
And I think that's what
fantastic.
attributes to success we're all talking about a belief system. That's all we're doing is creating a belief system, and it can be on the opportunity at JKR, and it's on the other side of the customer base, right? Like, what is our belief system? Because, on the customer side, initially when I started this, we were all talking about renewable, like some other competitors. I don't know if I'm allowed to say their names, but they're just big numbers, right? So I was like, and you guys, I truly believe you guys, but I was like, I'm going to forget it. I'm going to go get a quote myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to create a belief system, right? I came in and holy crap, that was expensive, even with their discount. You know, and the value prop,
Discount.
the value prop. that we do-
AARP discount.
Yeah, yeah, 40+ discount, baby. Yeah, but my belief system kicked in, right? And that's what I'm saying is like, if you want success, you got to do what the other guys are not doing, right? How many of our organization has gone out, if they have a house, go get a quote. Go get some quotes. Bring some belief system into your system. And then that made me so much money actually doing that process, because I've shown that to all of my customer base, and they have a belief system like I do, and they're like, okay, well, let's move forward.
You know, the next step is to actually get the windows in your house now.
Which we've had a handful of guys do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because then you got true belief, like, oh, I got them. It actually made this big of a difference.
Yeah.
Blake went through the whole process. He actually sold them to himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I got
It's a good commission on
I
his
got
own
black
windows.
frames, so I'm like, black frames.
Yeah. No, don't do the black things.
He's waiting for that black on black. You know?
It's coming.
That customer.
It's coming. They keep
No,
pushing it down, but it's coming.
I think there's something that we missed too, and there's something I saw Cory do when he started. So, as if I'm like, I'm like half your age. I'm like, when Cory was a young Beck, when he came in, I'm just kidding.
4 months
No,
ago.
but when Cory started, something he did that a lot of guys didn't do was he decided. So there's like this thing that's a decision, right? And I don't know how to explain it exactly until you've experienced it. But it's basically like when I get to area and I get out of the car, I'm gonna go get a deal. That's a decision.
Yeah.
A lot of people are just too
Intention.
like up to chance. Yeah, they're not intentional. They don't give a rip. They're like, oh, I'm gonna go find the first angry person that can kick me out of the neighborhood, and then call my manager and be like, oh, like I've never ever had that happen ever. And like
Yeah.
when it did, I immediately went the next street over and got a deal because I was gonna prove to myself I was gonna get something in there. I'm not owned by the HOA or the cops or like whatever.
Yeah.
But that's that decision, right? Because when you decide that, and I got thinking about this yesterday. Because yesterday I talked to 4 people, and on my 4th person, I walk in, same date, I'm right then.
Yep.
Right? And as I was driving home last night, you know, it was a 2-hour drive, I'm like, why does that happen sometimes to me and sometimes not to me? Because it's very situational. Like some days I'll go out, first conversation, same day and I'm like, what is that luck? And when I'm thinking about it, it's something Cory did, and I'm now reflecting on this now. When you get out of the car, you pre-decide what's going to happen that day.
Mm-hmm.
That's based on your intention, right? Sometimes they get out of the car, just like, oh, I'm going to go talk to some people, right? And yesterday, it's like, no, today I'm going to get a deal. Like, I haven't got a deal in a while. It's time to go get a deal today. In 4 doors, I got one. But, like, I was activated before I got out of the car. This was happening right now. And it did.
It just goes back to mindset and belief.
Yeah.
Convinced people are convincing.
Yeah, Michael Phelps, that was in that
That's what
book
he
that
does.
was going around. I don't know if that was
No
going around at
Limits.
JKR. No Limits, right?
Yep. Phenomenal book.
Yeah, that his like he actually predetermined the outcome,
Yep.
you know, and he got really good at that. Like, and it's all mindset of like intentionality. It's all like, you know, I tell the guys, I'm like, guys, you got to put in your mind, because when I'm driving and doing sets and closes, like there's a lot of stuff going on. Like, you know, especially as you go up in leadership, like there's just a lot going on, and you're helping a lot of stuff. And then you got to go to a close. Well, you got to be in a certain mindset when you're in that. So when I'm going to a close, I'm like, I'm invincible. I'm unstoppable. And I have this little, and it's weird in my mind. It turns. It just goes like this, and I click, and I'm like, there it is. And then literally,
It's recognized.
and it's right before I go in the doors, because in their door, and I'm going in. And it's like, I am likable, lovable, intentional, and like I just have those 5 things that go to, and I believe it, and then I just put a little smile on my face. That's all it takes, just a little smile. It's like, there it is. It's so weird. It's
No, I
so
got the
weird.
same
I
thing.
love
You
that.
do the same thing, right?
Mhm. I feel it. I'm like, yeah, this is about to sell. Even though I have no idea what we're about to run into, I'm like, I know that this is going to sell. And sometimes I'm only seeing red flags. I'm like, I'm not sure how this is about to sell, but I know it's going to.
Yeah.
And it does.
My deal yesterday, like the deal that we got with Connor's first one, I was just like, these guys aren't. The wife just said, like, we don't need windows. Like, our windows are totally fine. I'm like, why are we here, you know? And I'm just like, no, I need windows. Let's do this. You know what I mean? And then you just build all this value, and then you have so much confidence and energy, and then you do these big pullbacks from them, and then they're like, you know what? Yeah.
Well, athletes call it in the zone, right?
It's in the zone.
It's like you just know it when you're in the zone. I'm sure you've been there when you're riding. You know, it's like you get to that zone and you're ready.
You just feel unstoppable.
Yeah, I think there's just certain times where you just decide, all right, this is the time. There was a book that went around in sales for a while called Go for No, and I hated that damn book. It's like, why would you go for no? Like, I'm not going for a no. I'm looking for a yes. I'm looking for the outcome that I want, not the outcome I don't want. And I think I got a lot of, it was a big book. I don't know if you guys ever heard of that book, but it was a big book that sold probably in like 2008, 2009, 2010. It was called Go for No. And I just thought it was the dumbest book. Like, why would anybody read this book? Why am I going for a no? I'm going for a yes. Every person I'm asking for, I'm going to go close. If I'm going to recruit somebody, I'm going for a yes. I'm looking for the reason the outcome is going to be what I want, not the outcome that I don't want. Yeah. So I think it's just perspective and, walking into a house, just having a good self-esteem, which means you were prepared. You knew you're not walking in there winging, the appointment. Hopefully this is going to go good. I don't know what I'm supposed to say, but you know what you're supposed to say, when you're supposed to say it, how you're supposed to say it. You know your product, you know the outcome you're looking for, and you're prepared. But that only comes through experience too. Because I think a lot of times people want to do that without having the experience. They want to be able to go into a home and be prepared, and they spend all this time preparing, not in the field, not across the kitchen table, and then they get there and then it doesn't go the same. Well, that only comes through experience. And you got to be willing to do both. You got to be willing to practice when you're not across the kitchen table, and you got to be willing to put in the work and getting your ass kicked by getting the rejection, getting the objections, and being able to overcome it and close, right?
And I think that people that look at successful people, they think, oh, they're superheroes. Like they can go through adversity just like cakewalk. The reality is no. Like, when successful people, and when I've been, I've had not success and I've had success in my life, right? And when I've been successful, like, it's just as hard, But what I've noticed is I'm more consistent at my mindset and doing those little tweaks every day, because it's not like you're just magical and, we've got weaknesses about us and we're working at it, and it's every 1% that we're working on. Like,
It takes time to develop that also.
yeah.
So I know most successful people that I know, they're pretty tough on themselves.
Yeah.
And we have a tendency to forget about all the work that it took us to get here. And it's hard to remember what it felt like early on to deal with rejections.
Because that
deal
shit's
with
traumatic,
defeat.
bro. We try to get rid of it.
Exactly.
It's like, how bad it all
Bury it
hurt.
in the hatch.
Yes, for real. Let's get rid of it. It hurt so damn bad. I don't want to remember that.
I try not to remember any of it.
Yep.
But then, it's important also as a leader to help put things into perspective for people that this is temporary, guys. The pain, the discomfort, the uncertainty, it's temporary. And if
This is a good question, but is it? I said this quote yesterday, right? For a tree to grow to heaven, the roots got to be willing to go through hell. Everybody's always trying to get rid of the suffering.
That's a point.
And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the way that you're perceiving it,
Yeah.
and the pain that you're feeling is temporary.
Yeah.
But later on in your journey, it's still there. It's the exact same.
It just changes, right?
All the
It changes
doubt,
to a
all the
different
uncertainty.
It's a different kind of pain.
Yeah.
You just perceive it differently, and you develop. It's like getting into a slump early on in sales. You get your ass kicked for like 3 weeks. It's like, how am I ever going to get out of this? And then you run into the same challenges years later. It just takes you 3 minutes to overcome it.
Yeah, and when I say it changes, I feel like the pain just changes to different things, because if you get good enough long enough, then you start, like at the beginning, it's probably financial. Like, oh, shoot, how am I going to eat? How am I going to provide? How am I going to pay rent? How am I going to pay my car payment? And then you show up to a sale and, you have commission breath, and they know you're just trying to pay rent. And so then it's harder to close. But then you get through that, and then you start making a little bit of money, and then you start becoming into leadership, and then you got to deal with people. And then it's a pain in the ass because you're dealing with their problems, and you got your own problems. And then you get through that challenge. So I feel like, I don't know. In my life, I feel like the pain never went away. It just changed. It was like from one problem to another. But the difference is your influence grows, and the way you feel about the outcome gets better.
Yep.
Because at the beginning, it's like eating food and paying your car payment and having a place to live. It's like, yeah, these are basic necessities. Yeah, I need this stuff. And so it's hard to actually feel like, dang, this is really paying off. So it doesn't feel like this giant reward. And then even as you start maybe driving a nicer car, living in a nicer house, it feels good for a minute. You're like, oh, dang, I got a nice car. It feels good. But after about 30 days, it's just a car. You get a nice house once in a while, you're like, dang, man, this is awesome, you know? But after a little while, it's just the same. But I think if you can last long enough to get to a place where you start seeing people's lives be impacted by your ability to go through that, and I think that's where most people never get to, is they get to the place where they get out of the necessity. They get to a place where maybe they even get to a nice car or nice house like these dudes you were talking about earlier. But rarely does somebody get to a place where they've become influential and started impacting someone's life. And then even though the pain is still there, it's like the reward is so great when you watch somebody else's life change, is that it's like it amps you up and you go, dang, I could do this part forever.
Yeah.
But is the house and the car really motivating? Probably not, because it just becomes a house and a car. But someone's life being changed is like, all right, then the suffering's worth it. And I think that's where most people never really get to.
It's all just perspective.
Yeah.
Early on, you don't recognize that you're paying the price to reach the next best version of yourself. All you see is the pain.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know why anybody would continue doing this.
Yeah.
It's miserable. But then you've been through it a couple of times, right? Like going through business and all of the stepping stones, and recognizing that had I not put myself through that and pushed my way through it, I wouldn't have learned those lessons. I wouldn't have leveled up. I wouldn't have had the insights and the new wisdom to bring into new decisions. And the same thing when you're developing people. Like, it's tough. The people business is tough. I know why people don't follow that path, because they're dealing with emotions and a dozen different type of scenarios all in a very short period of time. And most people just want, I'm just going to go do some day trading. This is much easier.
Well, it's like, as a leader, though, it's kind of challenging, because it's easy for us to sit here and talk about now, right, as we're having success. But it's like, saying is, woman has a baby, you don't ask her how bad it hurts, right? You're paying attention to the baby, right? The outcome. So a lot of times, naturally, with salespeople and leadership, we're always talking about the baby. We're talking about the outcome. What is the exciting thing? These happy customers, the amount of money we're making, achieving our goals and dreams. But it is hard to talk about the pain. It's hard to talk about the struggle, because, like you said earlier, it's important for us to make it attractive, because it is worth it. And how do you talk about the pain without it being worth it? And until somebody's actually gone through it, it's really hard, to have that kindred spirit with somebody who's really never been through it. Because it's like, dude, if you only knew, right? I've always said, if you knew what I knew, you would do what I do. But you don't know until you've been through it. So you got to be willing to hold somebody's hand through that process, through the up and downs, through the emotional roller coaster, not take it personal, not let it weigh on you, and realize, hey, you got your own emotions. They have their emotions. But you can't take their emotions personally. You got to be willing to manage the emotions of a crowd, keep it up, while getting to a place where the results start getting to a place where they get excited, and then they start seeing the little, benefits of all of this pain and the struggle. Like, I promise Levi, it's still hard as hell for him. I guarantee he walks into an appointment, he's uncomfortable, it's not natural for him. But he's making $30,000 a month, so he's like, you know what? I never made $30,000 a month. This is worth it. So he's starting to see that.
Got to keep pushing.
There will be another struggle down the road that's going to feel the same as the one that it took him to get to $30,000 a month. But seeing a guy like Levi, or seeing someone like him, who are starting to have this success, I don't know, for me, like, it's worth it to go through all that stuff to get to a place where you see somebody like Levi or Kim start to change their life. Or like you guys, right? It's powerful. It's awesome.
It is.
To see. Right, when you started, you're like, dude, really? You promise? I remember one day I said, dude, just trust me. I know I just met you, so I know you have no reason to trust me.
I remember that.
But if you'll just trust me, I promise you're going to make more money than you've ever made in your life.
And
it
I
isn't-
had that conversation
right?
with him too a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Like everybody
I
was.
don't know, man. Every time I talk to someone, it's a new story.
Yeah.
We've
I'm not
been-
really seeing any light at the end of the tunnel.
We've been through some ups and downs. So
Yeah.
as we wrap this thing up, I think that's it's a great message to leave everybody with. When we started this, before we turned on the cameras, we said, this is just going to be a normal day at JKR Windows. We're talking about the things that we're passionate about, and it's not all rainbows and butterflies. When you came in 9 months ago, it was a little bit choppy around here, and we were going through a season in JKR Windows, and in my personal life, it was just a season, but we stuck this thing out together. We've attracted some incredible people, and here we are still 9 months later talking about the stuff that fires us up, reaping the benefits of doing the right thing. And as a result of doing the right thing, we're having our best months that we've ever had. We've got more producers in JKR Windows than we've ever had in the history of the company. Things are looking pretty bright, gentlemen. So appreciate you guys being on with us today.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
If you guys got some value out of this, share it with somebody that you know that needs to hear this message. Look these gentlemen up on their socials and reach out to them if you're interested in joining a growing, expanding, badass team here at JKR Windows. Keep checking in every week for more highlights on the Just Real Quick podcast. If you haven't already, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.